Video games are able to transport us to far-off places and let us play inside the worlds their creators have imagined for us. But before all this newfangled technology took over, we had to use books to escape into the realm of the fantastical. Books, like games, can explore diverse themes, cultures, and a variety of characters and settings, although you do have to use more of your imagination when it comes to books. But a good number of your favourite games are influenced by, or even directly based on literature, so here are 9 games which are actually based on books. Assassin's Creed. Yep, Assassins is heavily inspired by the 1930s novel Alamut by Vladimir Bartol. Alamut centres on Hassan-i Shaba, a Persian missionary who converted a small community back in the 11th century and formed the Hashashin to further their order. The motto of this group of assassins: nothing is an absolute reality, all is permitted. And if that last bit sounded familiar, it's because the Assassin's Creed games use it almost verbatim. Nothing is true, everything is permitted. The first game in particular takes place within the same time frame, with s.t.a.l.k.e.r taking down members of the opposing Knights Templar. Alamut doesn't really touch on the whole ancient high-tech civilization controls humanity's actions through a series of magical artifacts to prevent a massive cataclysm in 2012 thing though. That's an improvement of Assassin's Creed's making. Yeah, let's go with improvement. Bedlam. Bedlam is the first book in sci-fi series from Scottish tartan noir author Christopher Brookmere, and yes, that's a real genre. The game of the same name and the book were crafted simultaneously, but while Brookmere's text stars Ross Baker, who ends up falling into a nightmarish realm of interconnected game worlds and has to try and find his way out, the game focuses on Heather Quinn, gamertag Starfire, who has pleasantly Glaswegian reactions to being trapped inside a video game world. In a homage to retro first-person shooters, she flicks happily between genres and even ends up in a somewhat terrifying first-person Pac-Man experience. The Witcher. The Witcher is based on a Polish series of dark fantasy short stories and novels, winning 3rd prize in a Polish short story contest back in the 1980s. Andrzej Sapkowski's The Witcher quickly became one of Poland's most popular fiction series ever. The collection of short stories and novels follows Geralt of Rivia as he winds his way through the countryside, killing demons and bandits and bedding numerous women he comes across, although not necessarily in that order. It makes sense then that the game follows much the same pattern, only this time your choices actually affect the world more than you simply turning a page. Fun fact, in Poland the series is known as Wiedźmin and was originally translated into English as Hexer. It wasn't until the developers at CD Projekt Red decided to translate it literally as Witcher that the series took on its more unique name. Enslaved: Odyssey to the West. Enslaved is a sci-fi twist on Journey to the West. The book is one of the great pieces of classical Chinese literature, although you might recognise it more as Monkey, the tale of a monk's legendary pilgrimage to the West. It mixes ancient folklore with real accounts from the journey. The monk is accompanied by 3 guardians, one of which is a monkey born from stone, who is also incredibly powerful. And while Enslaved is set in a post-apocalyptic future rather than ancient China, and features a man called Monkey rather than an actual monkey, it does share a lot of themes and characters. Just like in the novel, Monkey is forced to protect his charge, and also wears a gold headband to control him. While in the book it's used to keep him in check, in the game it links him to his partner Trip. If she dies, so does he, so he has to protect her. Parasite Eve. Here the game is a sequel to Parasite Eve, the book, where the book follows Eve as she awakens and controls the people she comes into contact with in order to give birth to what she considers to be the perfect life form. The game follows NYPD cop Aya Breer over a 6-day period as the entire city of New York goes to shit after Eve's grand return. How bad could it possibly be? Well, one scene shows Eve spontaneously combusting an entire theatre crowd, turning them into a gelatinous orangey mass of goo. And ironically, that's probably not the grossest thing you'll witness in New York City. Metro 2033. Written in 2002 by Dmitry Glubkovsky, Metro 2033 was originally published online as an interactive experiment, drawing in millions of readers to its bleak, dystopian future version of Russia. The game of the same name loosely follows a similar plot to the books. The game doesn't focus on the politics between each of the factions living in Russia's underground system nearly as much as the book, and the sequel, Metro Last Light, deviates from the original story pretty heavily. Still, it absolutely nails the sense of place, giving you all the fun and excitement that comes from living on the husk of a planet. Dynasty Warriors. Considered one of the 4 great classic novels of Chinese literature, Romance of the Three Kingdoms combines historical fact with legend. Spanning 120 chapters and featuring nearly 1,000 different characters, the novel covers the war between several leaders as they vie for control of China during the Han Dynasty. turning the sprawling historical and military drama into an equally detailed strategy game would have made a lot of sense. What doesn't make sense is creating a hyper-stylized, anime-inspired slashathon with shredding hair metal guitars and really bad voice acting. Enter Dynasty Warriors. Despite how wildly different the subdued Romance of the Three Kingdoms and bonkers Dynasty Warrior games are, they still feel like they're simply two sides of the same coin thanks to the narrative that runs through them. Spec Ops: The Line. The game is basically Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness set in the Middle East. The book follows ivory trader Charles Marlowe on his journey down the River Congo. He learns about, and eventually becomes obsessed with, a mysterious man called Mr. Kurtz. He finds him in control of a group of African natives and discovers that Kurtz may have gone just a bit off the deep end. And if all this sounds familiar, it's because it more or less forms the plot of classic Vietnam War film Apocalypse Now. It also forms the backbone of the story that drives Spec Ops: The Line. Captain Martin Walker leads his team through the sand-swept ruins of Dubai in search of Colonel John Conrad, who may or may not have gone completely rogue. The name Conrad is, of course, a not too subtle reference to the author of its largest inspiration. As you progress through the game, reality starts to unravel the closer you get to the, well, Heart of Darkness, and you'll end up responsible for more than a few war crimes of your own. Stalker: Shadow of Chernobyl. Stalker borrows many of its concepts from the sci-fi novel Roadside Picnic. Here, aliens have visited Earth in 6 different locations, referred to as zones, and all sorts of strange sightings have occurred inside them ever since. Even though the government tries to keep these locations under wraps, a group of thieves known as Stalkers try to sneak in and find whatever artifacts they can get their hands on. There's even a Russian film loosely based on the novel's events called, you guessed it, Stalker. And while Roadside Picnic was written before the nuclear meltdown at Chernobyl in the 1960s, the game Stalker took many of the events of the novel and switched aliens for experimental scientific research. As one of the Stalkers in the game, you have to make your way through the harsh, irradiated landscapes, scrounge for supplies, and try to find as many mysterious artifacts as you can stuff in your knapsack. Look out for the anomalies though, they'll rip your atoms right in half, and that's not fun. Not fun at all. So there you have it, 9 games based on books, and we know there are more out there, so if you have any suggestions or theories, please put them in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more features like this, as well as news, previews and reviews from Games Radar Plus.